night shift at a remote gas station isn't supposed to be terrifying. It's supposed to be profoundly, mind-numbingly boring. You drink stale coffee, you wipe down the counters, you listen to the low hum of the fluorescent lights, and wait for the sun to come up. But isolation does something strange to your mind, especially when your station is located on Highway 9. It's a dead stretch of road, an hour away from the nearest town, completely swallowed by miles of absolute pitch black forest. During the day, it's just trees, but at night, the darkness presses against the large glass windows like a physical weight. It was a Tuesday, around 3:15 a.m. A heavy rain had started pouring. Not a single car had passed by for over 3 hours. I was sitting behind the register, staring blankly at the security monitors, trying to stay awake. And that's when I got that feeling. You know the exact feeling I'm talking about. The sudden, freezing prickle on the back of your neck. The primitive instinct that screams at you that you are no longer alone. I slowly looked up from the monitors. I stared out the massive glass doors into the rain-soaked parking lot. At first, I didn't see anything at all. Just the rain hitting the empty concrete. But then, at the very edge of the light, right where the asphalt met the dense tree line, something was standing there. A figure stepped out from the shadows of the woods. It was a man, but the way he was moving was completely wrong. He wasn't walking like a normal human being. His steps were too long, too exaggerated. He kept his legs completely stiff, not bending his knees at all. He moved forward smoothly, swaying violently from side to side with every step, like a broken puppet being dragged by invisible strings. My stomach dropped. I stood up slowly, unable to look away. I watched as he made his way across the empty parking lot, heading straight for the front doors. He was wearing an old, incredibly dirty yellow suit, completely soaked from the rain. When he finally stepped under the bright canopy lights, I saw his face, and the image of it is burned into my brain forever. His eyes were completely wide open, so incredibly wide that I could see the bloodshot whites all the way around his tiny pupils. He wasn't blinking, not even once. But the eyes weren't the worst part. It was his mouth. His jaw was unhinged, stretched into an unnaturally huge, horrifying smile. It didn't look like a human expression of joy. It looked painful. It looked like a predator trying desperately to mimic what a human smile is supposed to look like. He stopped right in front of the glass doors, just 3 feet away from me, separated only by a thin sheet of glass. He didn't move. He didn't blink. He just stood out there in the freezing rain, staring directly into my eyes, with that skin-stretching, horrific smile. I couldn't breathe. My hands were shaking so violently I had to grab the edge of the counter. I nervously pointed a trembling finger at the closed for cleaning sign hanging on the door. He didn't react. A full, agonizing minute passed in absolute dead silence. Then, very slowly, the smiling man raised his right arm. His movements were jerky, almost robotic. He pressed his pale, freezing palm flat against the wet glass. I didn't know what to do. I slowly lowered my own hand under the register, wrapping my tight fingers around a heavy, metal flashlight. And that is exactly when the smiling man did something that made my blood run entirely cold. Still staring at me, still smiling, he slowly lowered his own hand down to his side, pretending to reach under an invisible counter, exactly like I just did. He was mocking me. He was perfectly mimicking my movements. To test it, terrified of the answer, I slowly tilted my head to the right. Instantly, the man outside snapped his neck to the right, so violently and with so much force that I swear I could hear the bone loudly crack through the thick glass. Pure, unadulterated panic took over my body. I frantically pulled my cell phone out of my pocket and dialed 911. My fingers kept slipping on the screen. Outside the glass, the smiling man reached into his empathy pocket. He pulled out an invisible phone, pressed his completely empty hand to his ear, and his smile grew even wider. It stretched so far his lips started to tear. I pressed my phone to my ear. It was ringing. 911, what is your emergency? A tired operator asked. I opened my mouth to speak, but before a single word could come out, the power went out. The heavy thud of the main breaker failing echoed through the building. The bright fluorescent lights died immediately. The humming of the refrigerators stopped. The street lamps outside completely shut off. The entire gas station and the parking lot was plunged into absolute, suffocating darkness. Someone had cut the power lines from the outside. I dropped my phone in shock. I fell to my knees, hiding behind the counter, and slammed both hands over my mouth to keep myself from screaming. The silence was deafening, just the sound of the heavy rain hitting the roof above me. And then I heard a sound that I hear every single night in my nightmares. A heavy, metallic squeaking. Someone was slowly prying the locked automatic glass doors open by hand. I curled into a tight ball on the dirty floor, shaking uncontrollably, tightly gripping the metal flashlight. Then the footsteps started, soft, dragging footsteps moving across the wet linoleum floor inside the store. Scrape, scrape, scrape. They were moving slow, deliberate. They walked past the candy aisles, past the coffee machines, and then the dragging sounds stopped. They stopped right in front of the counter where I was hiding. A sickening, horrifying smell suddenly hit my nose. It smelled like wet earth, old copper, and rotting meat. I could hear heavy, wet breathing coming from just the other side of the counter. The breathing of someone whose mouth was stretched far too wide open. I closed my eyes, praying to whatever was listening that he wouldn't look over the edge. And then, leaning slowly over the counter, in the absolute pitch black darkness, a voice whispered directly into my ear. 911, what is your emergency?